All right. So just give our disclaimers. Thank you for joining our Nevada Department of Wildlife Education Program. We do have Q&A chat and raising your hand at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to use those as we go. Chris has a lot of awesome information, so it may be a little while. So grab a snack, grab a drink, hot chocolate, and pen and paper so that you can write down where these areas are at. All of our information's on the website as well. And make sure you can hear me well. Turn your volume up if needed. Turn on subtitles. This will be recorded to YouTube, so then you will be able to use subtitles at that time as well. And so without further ado, we have Chris Cruikshanks tonight on talking about the Native Fish Slam. And this is also a family-friendly program, so please keep your questions and comments on topic and appropriate for family talk. So nice to see you all again, and I'll let Chris take it away.
Thank you, Abby. I'm going to go ahead and go to the first slide. Like Abby said, my name is Chris Cruikshanks, and I am the Fisheries Chief for the state of Nevada for the Department of Wildlife. And I'm here tonight to talk about the department's Native Fish Slam program, which we've had for a number of years now. So I'd like to give an overview of our Native Slam program, as well as give you some sort of tips and tricks on where to look to complete the Native Slam. So without further ado, we will get started. First off, what is the Nevada Native Slam? Basically, it's been in place for almost 10 years. It's a recognition program that's designed to encourage fishing for Nevada's native trout species and recognize those individuals that catch all native trout species in the state. Anyone and everyone is eligible to participate. It's basically just a recognition program, like it says, for every individual who goes out and catches all native trout species in Nevada. So first question, what is Native Nevada? What constitutes the Native Slam? Native Slam, well, I'll get into that in just a few minutes. If you look at, here's a map just depicting all of the historic ranges of the 14 species of native trout. So if you were to look at that really closely, you can probably deduce what's native to Nevada. In the Western US, you can see the whole cutthroat species complement in covering most of the Western US with Lahontan cutthroat, Bonneville, Colorado River, Greenback, Rio Grande, Yellowstone. And then if you look at mainly Nevada, most people associate Nevada with Lahontan cutthroat trout, which is Nevada's state fish. But most people are surprised to learn that there are 6 trout species native to Nevada. So 5 other species that are native to Nevada besides the Lahontan cutthroat trout. We're going to get into those species, like I said, in just a little bit. But how do you participate? In all of each year's fishing guide that we have, and also on our website, in the fishing guide, also known as the regs book, in the back of that guide, you'll find this page here, and this is just an entry form. You can just rip it straight out of the guide, fill out all the pertinent information. We don't necessarily need a sportsman ID, but the name, date of birth, where you caught it, and by species. So what we like to do is fill out one of these entry forms for each species and go ahead and send that form in to us along with a picture, and just a date on the water where it was caught and the county where it was caught. So like I said, they're in the fishing guide, or you can download, go to our website and download an entry form there. You can pull a entry form out of the regs book and photocopy it if you want, either way. Rules and eligibility, because there's always rules and eligibility. For to qualify for the Native Slam, the fish must be taken by legal method from waters in Nevada. No California fish, please. So it must be taken in Nevada, and you just need to snap a picture and print out a picture and provided with the angler, with the fish and the water where it was caught. Most people ask, and there's some states that have a time limit for their native slam programs. There's no time limit for Nevada's, but you must submit your entry within 60 days of catching the fish. And like I said, you've got till the end of time to complete your native slam. Some people like to do it. We had one individual complete it in about 6 weeks, the very first completion. Other people take 3, 4, 5 years. So it's up to you. We don't need lengths and weights of the fish. And like I said just a minute ago, 1 certificate per angler. Oh, this is different. My apologies. So once a native slam is completed, we will issue 1 certificate of recognition per the angler after you catch all 6 species of native fish. And if the fish size qualifies, we encourage you to also submit that entry into the trophy fish program. I won't get too far into the trophy fish program, but on the exact facing page in the regs book is a trophy fish entry form. So if your native fish also qualifies as a trophy, go ahead and submit it there as well. And it's the last one, we reserve the right to accept, reject, disqualify any entry submitted. People say, wow, that's kind of mean, but it is amazing how many entries we get. For instance, people catching and taking a picture and submitting a brook trout thinking that it's a bull trout. So when you send your entries into our office, we just take a look and see that yes, it is the fish that it's supposed to be, and that's it. So one of the reasons why, and this is my overarching message of the night, one of the reasons why we created the native slam in Nevada is we like to think that the road planners, when they laid out the major freeways and thoroughways through Nevada, did a really good job at keeping the back roads and the wilderness of Nevada a big secret, because as you drive through Nevada, there's not a lot to see, and we kind of like it that way. Just let people drive on through and let's keep Nevada to ourselves, keep it a secret. But what this program is encouraging people to do is to get out away from the pavement, to get away from the cities, to explore some of those secret treasure back places in Nevada, to see what Nevada has to offer. Because if you get off the roads and get up to where some of these native trout live, you're going to see some absolutely spectacular parts of Nevada that you never knew existed. So that's the overarching message of the native slam. It's not to go out there and check boxes and say I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's about the journey. It's about enjoying not only catching these 6 native species, but they're all in very, very unique places. And so in order to catch those fish species, you're going to see some really, really cool stuff. I can promise you that. So once you complete your native slam, we will fill out all the pertinent information, the date caught on all your 6 species, signed by our director and chief of fisheries, myself. And pay no attention to this slide because our native fish slam will be we're revamping it a little bit, and so no, you won't get this dad hat in addition to that nice certificate. We're going to get all new hats for the Nevada Native Fish Slam that are much cooler than this one. I know this one looks like it belongs on about a 47-year-old man. But we're going to get, we're in the process of getting all new Nevada Native Fish Slam hats. So when you complete your fish slam, you get a certificate like I just showed you, along with a cool hat. And we're also looking at partnering with some other organizations, like some other states do. They give out a really fancy medallion. We're looking at partnering with some conservation organizations and offering that as well. So like I said, we're looking at revamping the whole program. So it's going to be a lot cooler than this hat shows in the future. This is a little bit out of date. I think we're up to 20 or 21 individuals that have completed the Native Fish Slam. So you can see that's not a lot of people in 9 years, because in order to complete the Native Fish Slam and to catch all 6 species, it does take some work. It's not something you're going to do in a day or a week. And even the individual that did it in 6 weeks, it takes some effort to complete it, not because the fish are hard to catch. That's probably the easiest part, is just getting to where the fish live. So now we're going to move on to our fish in the Native Fish Slam. First and foremost, the state fish, like I was talking about earlier, Nevada state fish, the fish that most people, the native fish that most people associate with Nevada, is the Lahontan cutthroat trout. 10,000 years ago, most of northern Nevada was covered by ancient Lake Lahontan. As the waters in that lake receded over thousands of years, those fish were relegated to high mountain streams where they still live. A lot of those fish were extirpated about 100 years ago when European settlers came and they introduced rainbow trout and brook trout and brown trout, which are not native to Nevada. A lot of those species both compete for native fish for resources and space and habitat, and they also readily hybridize with native species. So we've lost, it's sort of the plight of native trout across the West. European settlers brought with them a bunch of non-native trout species, and inadvertently we lost a lot of our native trout. So this is the native range for Lahontan cutthroat trout in Nevada. You can see the shaded portion is the footprint of ancient Lake Lahontan. So it covered most of northern Nevada into California, southern Oregon, a little bit. And you can see the streams that where Lahontan cutthroat trout were historically occupied. And then in the yellow where we have Lahontan cutthroat trout persisting today. So a lot of the streams in northern Humboldt County, Elko County, and the Rubies. We've got some down here in the Reese, and obviously you've got the Tahoe Truckee Pyramid Lake system. And just want to give everybody an opportunity to show you some pictures of your prototypical Lahontan cutthroat trout. A lot of these are going to be your stream resident Lahontan cutthroat trout. We encourage people to go out and explore, get to some of these high mountain streams where these fish live. You can see color varies wildly, but generally a dark red and golden hue on the sides. All cutthroat trout are characterized by large round spots that are located more posteriorly, so more towards the rear end of the fish. Versus rainbow trout have spots, but they're freckled. Cutthroat trout will have big round black spots, and the telltale slash under its jaw where cutthroat trout get its name. We'll see some pictures of that in the future. Another Lahontan cutthroat trout, you can see that sort of golden hue on it, big round black spots. And a lot of photos that I have in here are just some photos, some of the habitat where we can find these fish. Most of them, as we go through this, most of them will be found in high mountain streams that take some walking, some hiking to get to. But that's all, like I said, it's all part of the journey and not the destination. Once again, that golden and reddish hue on Lahontan cutthroat trout, you can see the telltale slashes under its jaw to give it its name. The red slashes, they give it its name of cutthroat. Some country where you're going to find some Lahontan cutthroat trout. Like I said, driving through Nevada, Nevada doesn't look like much at all, but if you get off the pavement and explore some of the dirt roads and some of these basin range province, some of these high mountain streams, it's absolutely some phenomenal country. Here's a really good shot of that telltale slash under its jaw. Another stream resident Lahontan cutthroat trout. This is a Lahontan cutthroat trout at one of our urban ponds in Reno. Once again, gold and red with big round black spots. There's a great shot of the stream resident. As Lahontan cutthroat trout and all cutthroat trout species get towards the spawn, they'll get really colored up, especially the males, and their operculum or gill plate will get real red, and their colors will get way more vibrant. This is a Lahontan cutthroat trout during the spawning period. This is from Marlette Lake, just up above Lake Tahoe there. You can see how brilliant red the fish get. They're just absolutely gorgeous. Another Lahontan cutthroat trout from Marlette that was during the spawning period. You can see how red and golden they get, and once again that operculum that gets just cherry red. And another Lahontan cutthroat. Some of the places where Lahontan cutthroats live. This is another picture of Marlette Lake. That is between Carson City and Lake Tahoe at about 8,500 feet in elevation. And the Nevada Department of Wildlife uses Marlette as a brood stock. So we take eggs and fertilize eggs from cutthroat that reside in Marlette Lake. We do that every spring. Take those eggs and hatch them in one of our hatchery facilities, and then stock cutthroats throughout a lot of portions in northern Nevada. And of course, you can't talk about Lahontan cutthroats without talking about the most famous place in the world where they live, home to the largest cutthroat in the world, and that's Pyramid Lake. People come from miles around to fish Pyramid Lake for the giant Lahontan cutthroat trout that live there. So as we go through these species, I'll give you the top 5, if there are 5 waters, top 5 waters where you can go to catch your Lahontan cutthroat trout. So number 1 should be no surprise, Pyramid Lake. The other one, number 2 is Gants Creek up in Elko County. Number 3 for the native fish slam, and all, when I say top 5, these come directly from our native slam entries. Number 3 is pretty surprising to a lot of folks, is Carpenter Canyon right outside of Vegas. Has a population of Lahontan cutthroat trout. They're not native to that stream. They were introduced years and years and years ago and have thus started reproducing on their own. It's a self-sustaining population, but there's a fantastic population of LCT in Carpenter Canyon, which is just about a 45-minute drive from the strip. Verdi Pond, which is one of our urban ponds that I showed a picture of just a few minutes ago, out by Verdi, west of Reno, and Smith and Hidden Lakes, which are a couple of high mountain lakes that we stock in the Ruby Mountains. So those are some good places to go all around the state to get your Lahontan cutthroat trout. Next, we're going to move on to Bonneville cutthroat trout. Just as most people are familiar, that Lake Lahontan used to cover most of northern Nevada. Lake Bonneville used to cover most of Utah 10,000 years ago. And the remnants of Lake Bonneville are the Bonneville cutthroat trout. You can see, as compared to the Lahontan, not nearly as red and golden. They'll have that real pale body color with some red, always some red slashes on the side. And once again, the big round spots rather than freckles. The orange here depicts ancient Lake Bonneville, which covered southern Wyoming, southern Idaho, most of northern Utah, and you can see it just barely came into Nevada. So all those streams along the Nevada-Utah border that flow eastward from the Snake Range, so that's the North Snakes and the South Snakes. The South Snakes are encompassed by Great Basin National Park, and the North Snakes by Mount Moriah. All those streams flowing east off of those mountains contain Bonneville cutthroat trout. This is Hendry's Creek over in the North Snake Range, typical place where you're going to find a Bonneville cutthroat. Once again, big round black spots and a real pale background, but you can still see the red splashes of color along its lateral line on the side. Just absolutely gorgeous fish. This was a Bonneville cutthroat caught in Deadman Creek. Like some of the Lahontan cutthroats we showed earlier, this one was during the spawning period. You can see how colored up it is. It gets much darker. It's got the big cherry red gill plate on the side, and you can see the red slashes under the jaw. That's a more typical non-spawning Bonneville cutthroat. And once again, some habitat where you're going to find some Bonneville cutthroats. You can see a lot of these fish look almost identical. They're that real pale background. This is Smith Creek in the North Snake Range, where you're going to find, in order to get to some of our Bonneville cutthroat trout in the Snake Range, both north or south, is going to require some hiking. This is one of your views. If you're going after a Bonneville cutthroat trout in Smith Creek, this is one of your views that you're greeted with on the hike in. Just a spectacular canyon. There's bighorn sheep running around. Really, really cool stuff. Also in both the North and South Snake Ranges, if you're going after Bonneville, you'll be treated with some sites of some Briscoe pines. This is in the North Snake Range. And where you're standing looking at this picture, if you were to turn directly around and go straight down that draw about 200 yards, there's a stream with Bonneville cutthroat trout, Dead Man Creek. So like I said, it's about getting and seeing these remote spots in Nevada where these fish live that most people don't associate with Nevada. Just some spectacular country. That's Mount Moriah in the North Snake Range. This canyon right here below it is Big Canyon, which flows into Dead Man Creek, which contains Bonneville cutthroat trout. Just a spectacular mountain range. If you were standing on that picture in the last, if you're standing on Mount Moriah and you're looking directly south, that's the view you're greeted with. That's Mount Wheeler, second highest peak in Nevada. Mount Wheeler is entirely within the Great Basin National Park, and most of the streams in Great Basin National Park, in fact, all of them, with the exception of one or two, have Bonneville cutthroat trout. So if you want to catch your Bonneville cutthroat, Hendry's Creek, Smith Creek, those are both in the North Snake Range. Goshute Creek is an out-of-basin population, a non-native. They're not within native range, and Goshute Creek is about 30 miles north of Ely in the Cherry Creek Mountains. And both Mill Creek and Big Wash are both streams that hold Bonneville cutthroat trout in Great Basin National Park. Moving on to Yellowstone. This is the one that usually trips up everybody. Everybody says, how in the heck are there Yellowstone cutthroat trout in Nevada? And most people don't believe that Yellowstone cutthroat trout are native to Nevada. But if you look at the map, here's all the native range of Yellowstone cutthroat trout. You can see right in the middle is Yellowstone National Park itself. So Yellowstone cutthroats are native to most of southern Montana. You can see, Billings and Livingston just outside of Bozeman, and all of northwest Wyoming. And you can see southern Idaho is native range. But if you come all the way down here, you can see this corner in the bottom left part of the slide. You can see their native range just barely dipped into the extreme northeastern part of the state of Nevada. We have Yellowstone cutthroat trout in one drainage in Nevada, the Goose Creek drainage. And they're in just 2 or 3 streams up there. So yes, they are native to Nevada barely. Yellowstone cutthroat trout can be highly variable in color. I like to think of them as a cross between a Lahontan and a Bonneville. They aren't as reddish as a Lahontan cutthroat trout and not as pale as a Bonneville cutthroat trout. But they still have those telltale cutthroat characteristics of the posterior, the big round spots, more towards the rear, and the cutthroat slash under its jaw. We do have for Yellowstone cutthroat trout, they're up there in the, like I said, in the extreme northeast part, and Yellowstones are honestly one of the hardest to get because they are so remote. It's about a good 2.5 hour drive from Elko just to get to where these fish live. And in the Goose Creek drainage, where the Yellowstone cutthroats are found in Nevada, it is all private property. But the ranch owners and the landowners there have been very cooperative. They just request that you please ask permission before you fish on the streams on their property. And they've been really, really cooperative in the past for letting people onto their property to catch their fish. Another Yellowstone, this is from Little Goose Creek. Really good depiction of the slash under its jaw. Once again, like I said, Yellowstone's probably the toughest. It's not a hard fish to catch by any means. They're real easy fish to catch. The hardest part is getting there. It'll be adventure getting there. But stuff you're going to see along the way is going to make the trip all that much more worth it. So the top Yellowstone cutthroat trout waters in Nevada. There you go, Goose Creek and Little Goose Creek. Just two, like I said, they're only native in that one drainage in Nevada. It is private, and so please respect the landowner's wishes and do as you're told up there. But they've been really, really accommodating to folks wanting to catch a Yellowstone cutthroat trout. Our next fish on the list is bull trout. Another fish that not a lot of folks are familiar with, and not a lot of folks are familiar that it is native to Nevada. But if you look at the native range of bull trout, once again, bull trout is known as, it's oftentimes called a glacial relic. It requires very cold, very clear water. You can see it's native to most of southern Canada, south of the Yukon and Northwest Territories. So a huge portion of Alberta and British Columbia, and also huge portions of Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. And if you look at the extreme, very southern range of bull trout, they are native to Nevada. In fact, the bull trout in Nevada are the southernmost bull trout on the planet. So very, very unique in that we have bull trout in Nevada as well. Where are the bull trout? They are native to one large drainage in northern Nevada, and that's the Jarbidge River drainage. So this is northern Elko County. You can see the Idaho-Nevada border. You've got the west fork of the Jarbidge River here, and the east fork of the Jarbidge River. North of the Nevada-Idaho line, they meet and they form the main stem of the Jarbidge River. But both the west fork and the east fork of the Jarbidge are home to bull trout, as well as all these tributary streams that feed both the east and the west fork of the Jarbidge. For anybody that's ever been to the Jarbidge, it's not easy to get to, but it's absolutely spectacular. It's a special, special place. Once again, most people can't believe that it's part of Nevada, or that any scenery that looks like that is in Nevada. If you want to get a bull trout, we're just about, in fact, this big storm that just hit the past few days probably closed off bull trout fishing for the remainder of 2021, just because it is so remote. You can get there from the south, north of Elko, driving a few hours, or you can go up into Idaho and come around that way. But generally, it is highly inaccessible once the snow flies. Here's some of the country where bull trout live. Our biologists that work on bull trout for a living, it requires a ton of backpacking, week-long overnight trips into some really, really rugged but spectacular country. This is what typical bull trout looks like. Bull trout are actually a char, like a brook trout. They're not a true trout species. So you can see char generally have light spots on a dark background, like brook trout and bull trout, versus trout have dark spots on a lighter background. So that's one of the biggest differences between the two genera. Bull trout normally get absolutely giant in a lot of the big rivers where they're native to in Canada and the northwestern United States. Because our habitat is so limited and so small in Nevada, they don't get really big. Generally, about a 14 or 15 inch bull trout in Nevada is going to be really big, and that's just based on the habitat where they live. But in the large river systems of the Pacific Northwest and Canada, they get really, really big. Once again, this is, I believe, the east fork of the Jarbidge, where bull trout live. And as most people are aware of now, Nevada is home to a self-reproducing moose population up there in the country where bull trout live. We've got about 100 or so full-time resident moose in Nevada. And if you're up there, just about 5 or 10 years ago, it was a really unique sight to see a moose in Nevada. Anymore, they're becoming very, very common. So you're up there after chasing after a bull trout, there's a good chance you're going to see some moose. Another bull trout. So the top 5 bull trout waters in Nevada. We've just had our anglers for the native slam have only caught them in 4 places. That's the West Fork and the East Fork of the Jarbidge River, along with Pine Creek and Jack Creek, which are tributaries to the 2 forks. Our next fish on the list is the interior redband trout. A lot of people aren't familiar with the interior redband trout. What is it? Interior redband trout is basically it is a native rainbow trout. There's Pacific rainbow trout and there's interior redband trout. The redband trout is the one that's native to Nevada, the interior redband to be specific. And as you'll see in some of the pictures that we have coming up here, they almost look nothing like. There's some similarities, but they don't look a lot like your typical rainbow trout that most people are familiar with. So you can see you've got coastal rainbow all hatchery trout are derived from, and that's what's raised in hatcheries is these are coastal rainbow trout. And you've got sort of 2 big divisions of redband trout. You've got Columbia River redband and then Sacramento, Kern, and McLeod River redband. So the inland or the Columbia River redband trout are fish that are native to Nevada. You can see it like your typical rainbow trout from a hatchery, which is really silver. Redband trout, they'll have these freckles rather than the big dark circles like on a cutthroat. Generally a rainbow or a red stripe down its side, but you also have very vibrant backgrounds ranging from a gold, a yellowish gold to a purple. And a lot of redband trout will have these vertical par marks on the side of their body that a lot of trout hold when they're juveniles. Redbands never seem to get rid of these par marks. They're absolutely gorgeous fish. And this is some of the country where redbands live. Just once again, absolutely spectacular scenery. There's a redband trout. You can see that's a good sized adult fish, and it still retains all those vertical par marks. Another good picture of a redband trout with those par marks. The black freckled spots rather than big round spots. You can see a lot of these streams look a lot alike because generally a lot of our native trout species live in these high mountain streams. That's going to require a pair of boots and some miles to get to these fish. Like I said, that catching the fish is probably the easiest part. It's just getting to them is the most fun and the most challenging. Big red stripe along the side. So let's look at our top 5 redband waters: West Fork of the Jarbidge, Pine Creek, Jack Creek, the East Fork, and the Bruno River. If you think back just a couple minutes, well, these are a lot of the same rivers where you can catch a bull trout. It's because these fish live in the same drainages, which are the Columbia River drainages, which are all those waters in northern Elko County that flow north into Idaho and are part of the Snake and then the Columbia River drainage. So bull trout and redband trout evolve together and they live together in a lot of those drainages. So you can go to the West Fork, the East Fork of the Jarbidge, and you can knock out a redband and a bull trout in the same day. And a lot of people have done that. Now, the one fish, when you ask people to name the 6 native trout species to Nevada, a lot of people will get 4 or 5. Almost nobody gets 6 because they forget the mountain whitefish. Whitefish are in fact a trout species. They're in the same family as trout. They're often overlooked by anglers, but they can be a lot of fun to catch, and they have their own beauty. You can see whitefish, no spotting pattern, no reel, but they're characterized by the real large scales. They have a much smaller mouth, which we'll see, but no real big spotting pattern on them. Their bodies can be sort of an olive brown to a golden yellow, and they're generally their scales are really iridescent in the sunlight. So we've got whitefish. Once again, they live in some of the waters with redband and bull trout, and particularly up in the Salmon Falls drainage up in northern Elko County. We also have some populations of whitefish that are native to the Truckee, Carson, and the Walker basins in western Nevada. One of the most popular places people go to catch a whitefish is the Truckee River right in downtown Reno. You can see iridescent scales on the whitefish and a much smaller mouth. This is on the Truckee River. Like I said, if you want to catch a whitefish, here's a really, really good spot to do it. This is looking straight towards Virginia Street, which is Main Street, Reno, for those that aren't familiar with it. Truckee River flows right through downtown Reno, and right in the middle of downtown is a really good place to catch one. I'm gonna say it, and I have said it all night long. It's not about the destination, but it's about the journey. Getting out and getting to some of these remote places. These are some of the treats that you get to see along the way. There's a band of desert bighorn rams. So our whitefish waters, the Bruno River, East Fork of the Walker, Truckee, and Salmon Falls Creek.
Chris, can we stop for questions?
Absolutely.
We have two. With all of these remote streams and creeks, how can you know if it's a legal water to fish in?
If it's, that's a really good question. Generally, if something is private, it'll be posted, and it's usually posted really, really well. And as a general rule, most waters in Nevada are going to be completely legal to fish. We don't have many waters that are closed to fishing, number one. And as far as private land issues, it's generally not an issue. And all the waters that I've listed here on top waters to catch these fish are 100% public waters and open to fishing. And generally speaking, there's a couple exceptions, but we don't have a lot of streams containing these native fish that are closed to fishing.
I'll share the fishing guide too, another map.
Absolutely.
And then the second question, do most people fly fish for these, or can you use a spinner?
You can use whatever you want. You can use a gobble worms on a hook. You can use salmon eggs. You can use spinners. Whatever works. Like I said, catching the fish is probably the easiest part of getting your native slam, because most of these fish live in remote spots. They don't see a lot of angling pressure, so they're relatively easy to catch. And in my experience, whether you're using spinners or worms or salmon eggs or fly fishing, these fish are hungry and they're going to be pretty easy to catch. So any means possible. Once again, like I've repeated, more than checking boxes, this native slam was designed to encourage people to get outside, to enjoy Nevada, get out and see what Nevada has to offer. There's some absolutely beautiful spots all over every corner of Nevada, down south and the eastern part and the western part up north. So the native slam was designed to encourage people just to get outside and explore Nevada, see what's in your backyard. A lot of people see this picture and they can't believe that it's in Nevada. This is over in White Pine County. This is the top of North Shell Peak, looking down into, I believe, the North Fork of Cleve Creek. But this is the spots, some of the stuff you're going to see if you just get out and explore Nevada. And obviously an obligatory sunset. That's looking straight down below that picture is Dead Man Creek, which has got Bonneville cutthroat trout. And that's all I got for tonight. So with that, I'd be more than happy to take any questions from anybody.
All right, the next one is, where do we catch the Bruno River and the Owie? Is that how you said it?
Oahe.
Oahe.
Those are both in northern Elko County. So easiest way to access both of those is go to Elko and go straight north on Mountain City Highway. And I will tell you a secret to anybody that's willing to go there. But the Oahe River just below Wild Horse Reservoir, so go to Wild Horse Reservoir and go to the dam and go below the dam, and the river flowing out of Wild Horse Reservoir north to the Idaho border has got an incredible population of giant redband trout that are really big and really easy to catch that most people don't even know about.
Sorry, real quick, I shared we're calling it the trophy fish map. It's an amazing map. And so I shared it with all of you. You can click it, save it to whatever browser you're on or near, and take that into consideration when you're looking for these routes like Chris was talking about. And you can break it down into the fish. And then I'm looking for the outie to make sure I had it in the right. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I put it on the wrong one. Okay, I'll work on that. And then Amy's question is, how would you recommend getting introduced to backpack fishing trips? I've only done day trips.
Basically, and just go out and do it. And it can sound really daunting to do if you don't have experience. I'd recommend just starting with a single overnight somewhere that's not far, and you don't need to have the best and the most expensive equipment. Go to yard sales, garage sales. People sell backpacking gear, good backpacking gear all the time. My family, my wife and kids got into backpacking, and a lot of it was chasing fish in high mountain streams. And it's really not as difficult as the whole backpacking world would like you to think it is. It's really easy to do. Start out with just an overnighter. Get yourself a light sleeping bag and a backpack, backpacking stove, which is really easy, and some backpacking food, and just do an overnighter. As far as fishing rod, you can, whether it's spin fishing or fly fishing, you can they make all sorts of rods that are conducive to backpacking, collapsible spinning rods, and 4, 5, 6 up to 12 piece fly rods. Like I said, my family does it all the time, and just started doing it so within the past 10 or 15 years. And it's really not as difficult as a lot of people would like you to think. Start with short trips and go from there. And once you start going into the whole backpacking world, it's phenomenal. There's so many places in Nevada that offer so much from a backpacking perspective.
Also, with it getting cold and hunting season, just be careful of that when you go out and about, and just be prepared for that. But I know we have recorded a backpacking video. I'm not sure if it's just backpacking day trips or overnight included. It's not up on our YouTube yet, but there are other YouTube videos that lay it all out for you. I know I've helped my husband pack in for some of his camps, and I'd say his backpack was 60 pounds, and I think he doesn't do the dry food, and he just did like canned foods, or mainly canned food. So that was a lot of his weight. And he lasted about 5 days, 3 miles up and in some areas. So it's definitely possible. And then just be prepared for elevation, right?
Absolutely. And like I said, gear can be really daunting, but there's go to estate sales, yard sales, garage sales. People are getting rid of super quality backpacking gear all the time. So if you go to REI or somewhere, it's going to be a huge price tag to get outfitted brand new. It's going to be really spendy, but buy it thrift stores. Anything secondhand, you can get some really quality gear a good backpack and a light sleeping bag. The other plug, I don't generally plug, specific gear or websites. But one thing that should be a must for all people wanting to go backpacking is download All Trails app on your phone. Or look on the computer at, it's just All Trails, ALL Trails. It is an absolutely fantastic app. It's a fantastic website, and it maps out every trail on the face of the earth, elevation gain, distances, all sorts of suggestions. It's really a must for people wanting to get into backpacking.
Very good point. That has definitely helped us even around town with some of the more secluded roads, since everybody has been getting out so much lately, trying to find a new trail that's not full of people.
And you get on All Trails and you can't believe the number of trails that are, like you just said, Abby, that are so close to your house that you never knew were there. There's, I mean, whether it's Vegas or Reno or anywhere, I guarantee you there's a whole number of trails that are really, really close to you that you have no idea that are there.
Well, thank you. If you have any more questions, let us know. We do have the survey at the end of this one too. Let us know how we did. Well, mainly how Chris did. And yeah, don't hesitate to write down our emails. Message us anytime a question pops up later on. Wake up dreaming about being in these mountain streams. When you think of a question, let us know.
And you can see my email address there at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to get a hold of me anytime. I'll be more than happy to talk more in depth, or any other questions that you might have. I'll be more than happy to help out.
Thank you all for coming again tonight. I'm excited to get you guys your prizes since you attended all so well. So have a good night.